Hey, there's section 14. How are you guys doing? I hope you're well, and I hope you had a fantastic spring break. I did, but it wasn't exactly break. We begin now the second half of the semester. We have 7 weeks to go. That's a rarity. Usually after spring break, we've got 8.5 weeks. And not this time out. We got 7 weeks of regular class and then a week of finals. And let's just freak out and fall apart together. How about that? As long as we stick together, all will be well. A few things for you today. I want to tell you what I was up to last week. Whatever you did, I hope it was great. I was, everything for me kicked off with Bridget's Career Day that last Friday before break. And it was a fantastic day. Here's my table that I told you about. I was indeed dishing out poems about death and about the apocalypse. But some of you were the highlights of that day for me. Yeah, it was fantastic to meet all kinds of wonderful high school students and shake their hands and talk to them about poetry and life and literature. But students from this course came running up to my table. At least a couple times I had groups of you come up. I think it was mainly you Pine River Bacchus kids. And gosh, that was so fun to see you in person. And you made me feel like a celebrity. And I'm feeling pretty wonderful about myself because one of you Pine River Bacchus kids, I can't remember your name, I'm sorry, your hair was blonde. You said it was your favorite class. And if that's a pack of lies, thanks for patting me on the back anyway. My self-esteem has taken quite a hit in the pandemic. And it was so fun to get some of you guys pens. And also there were 4 or 5, I think 4 of you, 5 of you, that came up for a pen. And so we could talk a little bit. And we had to walk really quickly all the way to the other side of the college, to the library in the corner where I belong. And I remember, so fun to get you a uni ball and kneel down and give it to you very ceremoniously. I got a few left if you haven't gotten one yet. So also last week, just in kind of a prelude-y way, I had a busy week. I was up at Long Prairie Grey Eagle. I love that town. And it was really great to be at that high school, that town I love. Every other kid has got brown skin. They're from Mexico. And I got 2 gigs there, one that I've had a while and one that I took on because of the death of my colleague, Mike Gamela there. And also visited my mom not once but twice because she is a flickering candle at the age of 94. Excuse me. I've got some news for you from poetry, if you don't mind. Some things are coming together for me, and it's all good news. And I also have a poem for you by the great Stephen Healey. I don't know a lot about this poet, but I'm holding a book of poetry by a guy who was told by his father when he was a kid that his dad was a spy for the CIA, and that was a difficult night for that kid. And all these poems are working out of that, an imagining of that lived experience. My dad was an insurance salesman. He didn't have I don't think he had that kind of a double life. So I got news from poetry, some heads up about opportunities coming up for you that you might be interested in the week ahead. And then I've got to teach you a couple of things about persuasion because we've got a number of you that things are getting a little fuzzy right now because some of you are on break, on legitimate music trips that weirdly began after break. So due dates are going to be a little bit on the flexible side, and I'm making videos for some of you that are watching it as soon as maybe I put them up, and then some of you are going to watch us later when you get home. You're going to have a few videos waiting for you. Now this particular week, Staples has their polar plunge tomorrow, so I'm not going to be teaching a Zoom class out of my beautiful classroom. So I'll only see them twice, but I still should have 3 videos for you because I got some catching up to do on some stuff that I said to them that I never pulled around and made a video. I just kind of flopped to my couch and took a little nap that week before break. I want to talk to you a little bit today about the idea of having a contra. We've talked about this a little bit. But we'll kind of tie up that unit on persuasion, on rhetorical theory, and definitely move in a completely different direction. I think I've said before that all comp teachers at CLC, and that's all of us, we all teach comp, are encouraged to have a literary component in our classes. For all the other English majors, that means a novel. For me, it means an entire half semester of looking at the greatest writers from the lost generation. Ernest Hemingway, William Faulkner, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and Thornton Wilder. So let's get some real writing and teachers in here and show you how it's done. And hopefully I can keep this around 20 minutes, low 20s. So anyway, much business appertaining, starting with Athena Kierkegaard. I am hosting next Monday Dr. Athena Kildegard, who wrote a beautiful book called Prairie Midden with State Arts Board funding, which examines the imagined lives of women who lived on the Minnesota Prairie in the 18 and 1900s. And I'm doing my best to, my dean has asked me to host her over a couple-day period. I'm going to be taking her around the college, hopefully for some classroom visits and a presentation slash informal reading at noon in Arch Hallberg, and that's Monday on the 27th. I do finally have dates for Maya Popa and Kevin Young. Dr. Maya Popa is going to read on April 14th. Kevin Young is going to read April 28th. That's going to be a little tight, right? 2 weeks apart. And in the Brainerd Lakes region generally, pretty much anyone who listens to Minnesota Public Radio is going to think that Jeff Johnson and Verse Like Water are hosting poets around the clock. And maybe I am, because those spot 15-second promo ads are going to run for a couple of weeks. Also, I got a Guthrie trip planned on April 18th. I still have tickets for that. I got 100 tickets. They're not all spoken for. If you can get to CLC by 7:30 on the morning of April 18th, get on that bus and let's go to the Guthrie and see some Shakespeare. It's a shortened version of Hamlet. It's not the whole thing. It's not 4.5 hours. It'll be about 3. I don't know what they're going to cut out. But you'll be home. You'll be back in Brainerd by roughly after 3 o'clock. So send me an email pretty fast if you want to get on one of those two 25-passenger vans that I have reserved. Also, in the really good news category, Jeff Tweedy of Wilco has given me a definite yes. I offered him an amount of money which just is so low, but it's the best I could do. You know, like he's going to play Lollapalooza for the fee that I offered him. But luckily, his agent let me know that while the offer was low, Jeff is an artist that does stuff for other than money, reasons other than money. And he's very excited to be a Verse Like Water poet, and he'll be coming next fall from Chicago. He'll be speaking at the college, and he'll put on a solo acoustic concert in the brand new BHS, Brainerd High School Fine Arts Center. Ichigimi or something like that. I haven't learned how to say it properly yet. I guess it's wonderful, and I'm going to fill that thing all the way to the roof. And last but not least, in poetry news from poetry, I did indeed get that $30,000 Minnesota State Arts Board grant just before break, and I am going to be bringing Ilya Kaminsky, Vagina Mort, Nicola Medzirov, and 2 bonus poets, my friend Forrest Gander and Carolyn Forshea are going to be my co-hosts. We're going to do that as early in September as possible. I could not be more excited, and I got another Minnesota State Arts Board grant to bang out by May 15th. So, a lot of poetry coming the way of my students, although you're going to be turning to prose. The rest of my students at CLC, they're drowning in poetry, reading Beowulf and Sir Gawain and the Green Knight and going to the Guthrie with me, etc. Here's a poem by Stephen Healey. I think it's a fine one. In junior high school. I sat in the classroom listening to the clock. I didn't say anything. I touched my lips too much. I listened to the wind rubbing against the windows. The field behind my school sometimes disappeared under snow. One night, my father told me that he was a spy for the CIA. He said that being a spy was like James Bond, but less exciting. He said I should never tell anyone he was a spy. If anyone asked, I should say he worked for the State Department. I listened to my father, but didn't say anything. I forgot I was there. It was dark outside. After that night, I went on being a student in junior high school. I sat in the classroom and didn't tell anyone my father was a spy for the CIA. I forgot there were windows between me and the field of snow. My history teacher showed us a bar graph of Soviet missiles. They were towering over the American missiles. He said we were losing the Cold War. I looked outside. I could see footsteps in the field of snow. I didn't say anything. Okay, a couple things today. A shorter set of comments and a larger one. When I re-enter the college after spring break, one of my traditions is to offer the annual safety talk. Because I love my students so much, I don't want anything to happen to them. And We are coming up on a period of time. We're already living in completely epic and dangerous times. And I know some of you are a little bit older, but some of you are teenagers. And I want to exhort you to be safe. And I did it all day yesterday, and I also gave the safety talk in Staples. And I hope you'll put up with it, and it'll be relatively brief. I usually begin the safety talk in the following way. I pick out a young man, and I did this yesterday with James Lovelace, who I love, and Jake Stockinger, who I also love. I love all my students. And in my 9 o'clock and my 11 o'clock class, I didn't do the same thing with my 1 o'clock class. But I said to these young men, okay, I had 2 questions for them. When did you get your license? And then my follow-up question, the real one that I'm leading to is, and how long was it after you got your license that you needed to feel what it would be like to go 100 miles an hour in a vehicle? Both students laughed and said it was like the next day. It was like the next week. I'm on no high horse. When I was 16 years old in 1976, I needed to experience the same thing. And I took my dad's 1973 Country Squire station wagon with fake paneling on the side, 17 feet long, and I did indeed take that thing all the way up to 100 miles an hour on a very small tarred 2-lane road near Borden Lake, near Garrison, which is the country I grew up in, at least on the weekends and summers. Please be safe. Young people are impulsive. Please be safe. Please know who you're with, and know what you're doing at all times. Watch out for those first warm days of spring. Anyone who works in an emergency room will tell you that those are the days that just fill the place up. Not snowy days like we got coming at us tonight and tomorrow. It's those first warm days where kids want to get in cars and roll down the windows and crank up Freebird just as loud as it will go. Please be very, very, very careful this spring. We lose kids every year from Minnesota colleges and universities, every single year. It often happens late at night. 1 minute they're walking along after a party and then they're not. And often it's near water too. So please look after yourselves and look after your friends and survive these days, these not very fair, well-spoken days. Please be safe. I'm just going to keep saying it, and I'm entered and continue to stay in the delusion that if I just say this often enough, every single semester, in the form of a hope and a prayer, that everyone will be safe and everyone will be there in their seats at the end of the semester. Been a long time since I lost a couple students at St. Cloud State to a drunken car accident. One minute they were in their chairs, and then the next minute I was experiencing them as an absence. Okay, here's the main thing I want to talk about today. Again, I'll try to keep this under in the 20-minute range. If you want to make an argument, you need an enthymeme, and you also need to use examples. Enthymemes and examples are the ways that you conciliate someone to believing what you believe. Aristotle says there's no third way. But let me make an editorial comment on some of the topics that I saw in your recent round of journal entries. I got through a couple of folders. It was hard to catch up during break because of everything. I kept working. But I did notice some topics that I think will not work as well as others. A couple of you mentioned the idea of writing persuasive papers about how dangerous, for instance, fast food is. Okay, there's no contra there. There's no con. I suppose that you could contrive it some way, but we all know that fast food is bad for us. Some persuasive topics are just too obvious. And if there's no contra, there's no work to do. Only a maniac would come along and write a paper that advocates for the idea that, hey, we should eat as much fast food as we possibly can. Let's just get to a convenience store and start scarfing that stuff down on a daily basis. We know it's harmful. We know it's bad for blood pressure. We know it causes cancer. So you're stuck. A better topic, and this will be the last time I bring it up this semester, is the topic that I'm going to make an argument about before this school year ends. I'm going to make an argument to the college that we eliminate the football program. And I recently had a dramatic and important conversation with one of the coaches who I won't name. One of the coaches has already resigned because of my arguments. I haven't even made them in public yet, and a coach resigned from the football program, and that's trouble for the football program. But another coach came and talked to me, and it was really our first conversation in years because he's been a little bit mad at me. And I was so glad that he did, because even though we don't agree, we understand each other, and there's things that we have in common. We are men. We are fathers. We are fierce educators. We love being teachers, and he loves being a coach. And we are also members of the same church. So I'm just gonna. It's a demo, right? It's a demonstration. On my side, my anthem is, because football does such evil things to the bodies, to the knees, to the backs, to the hands, and most notably the brains of young football players, we should eliminate it. That's my argument. I've got other side arguments that football is funded out of proportion to what it offers to the life of a school. But my main issue is the brain damage. It's not worth it. Every play is a war, and many, many players, the majority of them, suffer some kind of brain damage. But that's not the only argument. Just because I feel that so deeply doesn't make that the only way of seeing this. In addition to the idea that football is destructive, football is on bodies, football is corrupt, football is funded out of proportion, there are arguments on behalf of football. It's like that Tychonius guy that I keep bringing up, that 4th century church father that has helped me understand that good and evil are baked into the same cake. And until the things clear out at the end of the world, that's the way it's going to be till the end. And Chris Abani was talking about the same thing. I've already showed you that clip. The idea that the grotesque and the beautiful are bound up together. Same thing with football. Does it harm the brains of young men? Absolutely. There's a greatness to football also. There's no getting around it. It is the great American game, and in states like Alabama and Texas, it's a religion. I have to admit that there's a beauty to football, an unbelievable beauty. Some of those plays looked like they were choreographed by New York dance instructors. I admitted to that football coach that I watched more than once the last seconds of the New England Spicer Prep Bowl. I don't know if you saw what happened in that. You should Google that. What those guys improvised with seconds to go is absolutely stunning to me. Yes, football players learn cooperation. They learn teamwork. They learn how to work with other people. They learn integrity. They learn personal responsibility. And when they're not destroying themselves, it is a form of trying to stay and get into shape. Although weightlifting just raises your blood pressure, so now I'm flipping back the other way. I hope you can see this. There's a pro and a con. But in this, as Chris Abani and Tychonius teach me, a poet and an old church father, you can't claim one without the other. I don't think a football coach should compartmentalize and claim the greatness that is football without also claiming and owning and being completely responsible for the harm it does. So you see what I'm doing here? There's two sides, and that's important in the selecting of a topic for a persuasive paper. It's a big deal. So try to find a topic that is as a kind of coin, that is a sword with two edges, whatever metaphor you want to enlist to help you yourself understand it. And you'll have a better paper. If it's one-sided, you're really not going to go anywhere, and there won't be any work to work intellectually either. And that's about as far as we need to take that. Your due date for that paper is way at the end of the month because of the people on legit music trips. I'll put up your long-awaited midterm quiz this week, probably for the weekend. I first have to look at every single question. I told Staples this too. And go, did I talk about that? 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 And if I didn't, I'll have to tell you the answer or teach you that before it gets there. It's not fair to give you a quiz on something that I didn't do my level best to teach you about. And we will have 3 vids this week, even though I'm only going to see Staples twice. And so I should be back here tomorrow when I get back after a full day of teaching at CLC. And on the day that I gave my safety talk, I hope you stay safe. I hope you stay warm. Stay warm. We got a little more winter that's going to... This winter doesn't want to quit, does it? It's trying to kill us. But it won't. We're too stalwart. We're Minnesotans. God bless you. I love you guys. So good to be back being your teacher again.